Please welcome to the stage, Oscar Wendel. Oscar, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor, a privilege, and a joy to be among so many incredible women. I don't know why I've been invited for the second year in a row, but it is truly one of the greatest honors that I've experienced. And our next guest is a force of nature, to say the least. She has lived so many lives in one, and she has refused to let the hardest chapters in her life define her. We've spoken a lot about resilience during this yesterday and today, and there's something to learn from our next guest. And it's very difficult to summarize all that she's done in her life. So we're going to start by looking at a short video that summarizes her career.
Everybody is talking about Heather Mills.
Is in the studio.
One terrible moment transformed Heather's life.
But fortunately for the thousands of people around the world who've been afflicted by mines and lost limbs, she's put that dogged determination towards helping them.
Heather Mills has discarded her artificial left leg.
Who continuously plays a key role campaigning for the welfare of animals.
She's made it her mission to make us all go vegan. She's launching a campaign to help reduce global warming by giving up meat.
Heather keeps busy with her work as an activist, philanthropist, author, and entrepreneur.
Heather Mills is a successful businesswoman and philanthropist and has been a passionate vegan for over 20 years.
Climate change problems are absolutely from the consumption of meat and dairy, because of the deforestation, because of all the water used, because of all the methane created. So if you are not vegan, then you cannot have a big voice about climate change.
2009 was the year she created vegan food company V-Bites, which is one of the biggest of its kind in Europe.
I missed going out and having a pizza with a friend or having a burger. So I said, how can I stay vegan but still be involved in society and restaurants and things?
Started to make vegan burgers, vegan fish, vegan chorizo, everything.
I haven't tried vegan food before, and that was delicious.
Sorted, the taste, the product, everything. All we need to do now is raise awareness. There are people out there, millions of them, that want to eat this food.
He brings new information, I think, to me and to my department about the interest of Heather Mills in acquiring this site for one of those exciting new businesses of the future, providing vegan food.
She's got two factories here in the northeast, the latest on the site of that old Walker's Crisp factory in Peachley.
On my travels, I saw a lot of small plant-based companies really struggle to get any scale. So I decided to create V-Bites Ventures and invest in these startups and put these startups into a manufacturing, selling and distribution team that can go out to 24 countries as V-Bites does. And I then bought the ex-Coty Procter & Gamble factory. It's very innovative. We work in the algal oil sector, the vegan beauty makeup sector, and any area that requires plant-based facilities.
You affect not only the environment, but your health, the mental side of things, the prevention of diseases, the input to society because you're not sick, and the domino effect will ricochet throughout the world. It's what does that mean? And it is a waterfall of good, because I know that the vegan business is going to be the future forever. It's not just a trend, it's not just a phase, it is exactly what we need for health, what we need to do. Even if we don't care about ourselves, we have our children, and it's important we feed them the best, the cleanest, the healthiest food.
And I want to make the Northeast the plant-based valley of the world.
So I just thank Heather Mills for the person she is and the work that she does for all of us. God bless you, Heather.
welcome to the stage, Heather Mills.
Thank you.
I got to know you just over 5 years ago, but it had been more than 20 years then that I had known about your incredible life story. And it was in Dubai at Gulf Food. I did not know you would be there, and I literally bumped into you at the show. And I must admit that I had many preconceived ideas about who you were. And instantly, they disappeared. I realized that most of what's been written about you is plain wrong when I discovered how open and warm you are, and we've become friends over the years. And it's been truly an inspiration to see you firsthand, how you push through and keep evolving and reinventing yourself. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I want to hear, who is the woman behind the headlines, in your own words?
It's hard to self-analyze. I can talk about my faults, but I don't really focus on my good bits. I try and correct my faults. I'd say what I've managed to improve on over the years is to have more patience, because I see everything very simply. I see no problems. I only see solutions. I see no barriers. And I don't know whether I'm, just being ignorant, but having that clarity of thought has always just made me go for things straight, jump over obstacles where I need to, but absolutely have the vision and see clearly what needs to happen when it comes to business. On a personal side, until 8 years ago, I was really bad in relationships and you should never get married again. So I'm rubbish at that, because I'm so focused on solving problems in my business life that I didn't really focus on solving problems in my personal life. And one of the first speakers talked about having the right person by your side that supports you, doesn't feel insecure and threatened by your success, is really, really key. And all the women here will know that's a very difficult thing to achieve, is to find a man that's not threatened by a strong woman. They do attract a lot of insecure men because they're attracted to them and they want to control them, but they don't, they're not the right person for them. So I finally found a golden ticket at the age of 58, 8 years ago at the age of 50. So that's sorted, totally supportive. And business-wise, it's a never-ending lesson. So who's Heather Mills? Hard as steel in business and soft as marshmallow in personal.
I heard a good line yesterday that the strongest strength, the great strength of a woman is to remain soft while being powerful. And it's a difficult balance, I think. And resilience, to still stay human, and what you've been through with your accident and what you've been through in the press, you've never lost your human touch. And I think that is the most impressive, that you've never given in to bitterness or the other negative views that people have of you, to not let it define you. How do you do that? How do you cultivate that resilience?
Well, it wasn't always easy. First of all, just never read the press. I never have in the last 17, 18 years. And when something bad happens to you, think always, how can you turn this into a positive? And for some reason, I've just always been able to do that. So after, 10 years of horrific press, I decided to investigate the press and work out, why are they doing these lies? How are they finding these stories? So I worked in investigating the fact that they were hacking us. So I worked with a team called Hacked, and then we created the largest settlements in the world for innocent people that had no voice. So that was very cathartic. So when something happens to you, when I lost my leg, with the team, I created the largest landmine clearing charity in the world, the largest prosthetic assistance in the world. So it was like, when I got Lyme's disease and I couldn't eat my vegan food anymore, I created gut healthy food, really gut healthy food with 14 years analysis of low FODMAP, not have your kimchi or your kombucha, which is a high FODMAP. So I just basically always seem to have something thrown at me, and then I would realize after my leg at 25, and I'd worked in the war in the former Yugoslavia from the age of 21 until 25, why didn't I lose my leg then? Crushed my pelvis and punctured my lung. So as soon as you keep seeing that in one person's mind is horrific and shit, in my mind it's like, first thing I ask is, why is this happening now? You know, I never get impatient if the train's late, if the car breaks down, because all I think is, maybe I was going to have a crash. Maybe I was on that train, bizarrely, the train to Corby that had the accident. That is the train I get back from my factory every day, but I was on holiday that week. So when I went with the United Nations to loads of war zones, Sierra Leone, I was meant to be on a helicopter. I got the Lyme's disease, so I couldn't get on the helicopter. That helicopter was shot down. So I think every time you think something bad's happening to you, there's always something worse possible. And if something bad does happen to you, like you get cancer, and a lot of people overcome it, and then they go on to support and help, people with cancer. So it's the more that happens to you, the more scar tissue you get, the more you start to realize that it's happening to you because for some reason you can deal with it, even if you don't know you can at the time. And once you do, you get stronger and stronger.
There's this saying that God does not give you more than you can handle, and he has certainly tested you again and again.
Who said he's a he? I actually don't believe in God. I believe in kindness, spirituality, and all religions coming together to be good people, because too many religions create too many excuses for wars. So for me, you're either a good person, you don't need to be in a church to be a good person. And I know lots of religious people that are not good people, so I'm not religious at all. I'm just, you're either a good person or you're not.
You always turn, but you find purpose and meaning. And I think no matter how you find that, you need it. If it is believing in a higher power or doing good for other people. And as an entrepreneur, I think you've solved problems that you see and make the world a better place. And all what you've been through, what I wanted to say with that we get tested. I wonder, you had these hardships for a reason. And many times our greatest strengths can only be brought out when we're put through the toughest challenges. What would you say about that in terms of really taking on challenges and making the best of them?
I think, the reason you do the things you do are a multitude of reasons. For me personally, it was injustice. You can chuck anything at me to deal with, but when I see injustice, I'm enraged. And I think that comes from my childhood. My mum left when I was 9 years old. My dad went to prison when I was 13. He was a very violent man. So I just saw a lot of abuse. And then throughout my life, I saw lots of injustice. So I think you can go one way or the other. I do believe you are who you are when you're born, and you can go down paths that can, be disruptive. But I do also believe that a small percentage of people are born pure evil, and you have to be careful with those people. But I think I do the things I do for selfish reasons, because I've never took drugs in my life. So my drug is the addiction of giving. It's the addiction of making a change. And I wish more billionaires would get addicted to giving, then there wouldn't be bloody billionaires. Who needs to be a billionaire? I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous when so many people need help. Yes, have your security, have a certain amount of money, but... So I think a lot of people live with fear, and fear is something I've never had. I was afraid of my father, and once he was out of my life, everything else was easy. So I think if you can get rid of anything you're afraid of and challenge it and face it front on, which you would have heard a million times, it's the thought of wanting to say something and being afraid to say it. You know, a lot of women get breast cancer, they get throat cancers because they're not expressing themselves or they're acting as a doormat for everybody. So it doesn't mean you have to become hard. You do in business, because that's the only way to be respected as a woman, as far as I'm concerned. I remember I took on a first investment from a German company, and they literally turned to my partner, who had nothing to do with my business, but had come to pick me up at the end of a board meeting. And they said, "So what do you think?" And then they said, "You know, we think Heather should just go and retire and go to do some charity Rotary clubs," right? I was like, what? I'm the founder of this business. So you get so much arrogance. You either get men that really love and support women, and they usually have mums that they love, and sisters and daughters, and then you get men that are really uncomfortable and challenged. And also, I'm a woman who's a Geordie and very direct and straight, so I'm very much Marmite. You'll love me or hate me, but I'll always speak my truth. So I think it's just to be true to yourself, but to be kind and considerate of others is absolutely key.
Marilla was presenting yesterday, and she had some great messages about blocking and staying focused on what you want and your thoughts becoming your future. In keeping positive, it's oftentimes more easier said than done. And you can't always avoid difficult people and situations, and you need to find strength. Where do you go to cultivate a state of mind where you can be most effective? And you talk about not feeling fear. How do you get the fearlessness, and where do you get the energy, and how do you overcome doubt if you ever have it?
I think just by constantly overcoming adversity. So I think the fact that once you've got over the first hurdle, the courage builds up more and more, and learning how to deal with people. You know, a perfect example, I go in the factory with my hairnet on. I don't do social media, the team do it, so I haven't got a clue and I haven't got time to look at it or anything. So I basically am seen as, oh, she's always at these awards and she's always this. It's like I'm literally changing on the train in the stinky urine toilet of British Rail and running in, and then I'm back out and I'm in the factory. And this young girl had just started with us. My team have been with us for 20 to 30 years, but we scale all the time, so we add on layers, and they either stay for 2 weeks or they're out or they're in for life. And this young girl basically said, "Oh, it's all right for that Heather Mills." There was about 10 of us working around the production. You know, she's at these award things, and she's loaded, and look at us, and we should be paid more, and da-da-da. She'd only been there 3 days, and she was a hardcore Geordie girl, and I was just laughing to myself thinking, yeah, that's probably what my mind was at that age. And anyway, I waited until everyone left. So if I want to confront something, I take the person aside by themselves with nobody knowing, whether it's a CEO of a company, to tell him, you know, he's a dickhead, or it's basically a young girl who, you know, thinks the world owes her a favor. So I said to this girl, you know, would you come and have a chat with me? And I took my hairnet off, and she just went white and realized that I was the boss that had been working next to her for 6 hours. And so I took her in the other room, and I said, look, you know, I'm not going to fire you, even though you were really insulting. But would you like to come and shadow me for a week to see what my life's like, and just see what it's like to be a CEO and a founder of a company? Oh, yeah, that'd be brilliant. I said, we'll be in 4 countries this week, so make sure you bring your passport and a change of clothes. But only 2 changes of clothes and 5 pairs of knickers, and then just wash them in the shower so you can take a hold all, because we won't have time to stop to pick up the luggage. She's like, okay. So anyway, we first of all went to Vienna and had some meetings. We start at 4 in the morning, because 4 is Australia, because we're in 24 countries, and 11 we finish in Los Angeles and the West Coast. All she had to do was shadow me and take notes. She didn't have to do the negotiations, do the speeches, run into wherever. She lasted 3 days and asked to go home and back to the factory. And she said, I don't know how you can do this. I can't sleep 4 hours every night. I can't handle all this travel. I'm not getting the food that I need to eat. And I said, exactly. So you'll never say what you said in that factory production floor again, will you? And she's been with us for 9 years now.
I want to talk a little bit more about your many different endeavors. Not many people know you have 2 world records in speed skiing, straight down a mountain in 160 kilometers an hour. Talk about not feeling fear. How did you get into that?
Well, that was because I went into hiding when the paparazzi were going mad and I was exposing the newspapers for their phone hacking. So I was getting death threats and I just would go and hide in the mountains. And my girlfriend said, let's go skiing. And we didn't learn to ski till I was like 21 in the former Yugoslavia, which is how I got involved in the war, which is another story. And I hadn't skied for like 15 years. And I only knew how to go straight because in those days, prosthetic legs they just had metal bars that went up. And I developed the silicone legs with the team and all the running legs you see and all that for the Paralympics in that 30 years. But at that time, we didn't have a ski leg. So I would just go straight down and then do a hockey stop and usually crash. And sometimes my leg would fly off. And this boy came up and I had pants on at the time. I learned in the end to cut the ski pants off because you could adjust the leg quickly. But I'm literally lying there, my thumb's broken and the leg's hanging out like that from the bottom of the ski trousers. But it's my prosthetic leg, it wasn't my leg. But the poor boy that came up to me was like 20 years old, was like shaking, didn't know whether to do my thumb. I said, can you just pull my leg off? It's sticking out the bottom. And he's going, oh my God. I was like, no, don't worry about it. So I eventually learned to make a ski leg. You know, when you're in the airport and you've got those bouncy travel ladders, and I thought, that's brilliant material. So I researched where the material came from, and then I attached it to the side of the leg so it would give me some angulation for anyone that skis. And so I started to make the ski leg. Anyway, I got told off because the Austrian ski team were training, and I was just practicing, and I didn't know the little timers were there. So I went back to this place in Austria at the bottom of the Multaler Gletscher called Flatackerhof, and in the cubby hole it said, we need to talk to you. You are ruining our speed timings, the Austrian ski team. And I went, oh God, what have I done? I said, who's the coach? I'm really sorry, but I don't know how to turn properly. I'm just trying to design a new leg. And he went, what are you talking about? I said, well, I've only got one leg. He said, that's impossible. And I said, no, I do. And so I pulled my leg off to show him. And he's like, oh my God, this is crazy. He said, do you know how fast you were going? And I said, 123 kilometers. He said 123 kilometers. And I was like, what's that in miles? I don't really know. And he said, you should be a ski racer. Well, I was 42, and I started laughing. I said, I've got one leg and I'm 42. Very funny. But my best girlfriend, who's my biggest fan for 30-odd years, Ruth, she said, you know what, because you're hiding from the press, why don't you just maximize the time and do some ski training? And so the Austrian ski team trained me for the whole season and said, you can become a Paralympian. And I was like, but I'm 42. I said, that's mad. They said, no, you need to ask the British team because you can't ski for Austria because you're British. So I went to the British team and I said, can I be a ski racer? And they went, don't be so stupid. And I never even considered being a ski racer until they told me I couldn't. And then I was like, all right. So I got a wild card, went over to New Zealand, competed as an independent and won the silver slalom medal. And there were 3 reasons that I wanted to continue. 1, because I told I couldn't and wouldn't be able to do it. 2, I was vegan, and all we ever got told was, where do you get your protein from? So I wanted to show I got muscles. And 3, I wanted to show that a person with a disability could overcome adversity and win medals in their 40s. So I got the silver. Then I got 2 gold medals in downhill in Super G in Aspen. And then I decided to do something that nobody had done as a woman with 1 leg, and that was to compete against the men with 2 legs at the French downhill slope called Vars, which is specially groomed just for speed skiing. It has to have a 50-meter outrun. And when I got there, because I'm skinny, they go, oh, she's not going to get anything, she's too thin. But I realized if you're really, really flexible and aerodynamic, you could really gain speed without having 10-ton muscly thighs. And anyway, I did it and got 166.84 kilometers an hour. And that became a Guinness World Record that nobody's beat now.
It's just unbelievable.
And then just to finish it off, after that, I thought, ooh, what can I try next? So I did it in the skeleton, and then I did it in the bobsleigh, and then I did it in ski jumping.
So also another thing that not everyone knows is that you're one of the biggest producers in the world of vegan food. And last time we met, you showed me your new product, No Bloat, which is taking over the world. You told me 500 stores in Texas alone just started carrying the product. In the last few minutes we have left, could you talk a little bit about what's next in the entrepreneurial journey you're on?
Well, for me, 80% of all my profits go to charity, animal sanctuaries, disability, landmine clearing, the areas that I work in. So I'm always looking at what is going to heal someone. So we set up a system in 2007 where I set up free cafes next to McDonald's, and the kids got $1 a day to eat. So where did they go? They went to McDonald's. So we put the vegan burgers, the vegan cheese, the vegan nuggets, the vegan everything in the cafe next door, and it was free. So we get the kids away from McDonald's. In the end, McDonald's ended up putting in vegan burgers, vegan cheese, and using that. So whereas I started creating the first vegan cafes, I knew that was a limited business. I knew as soon as it caught on that the best thing was to have vegan options in every restaurant and cafe. So once that happened, I sold the cafes and I expanded the manufacturing, knowing that we would be the providers of that product to go into those hotels, exhibitions, conferences, and the stores around the world. We resolved that, but I created a burger which was taken over by America, which became the Beyond Meat burger. And what they didn't do was listen to me on the messaging. We engaged the meat and dairy industry. We created the first Domino's vegan cheese, the Applewood vegan cheese, the replications of everything to get people off their fast food heroin, so to speak, over to their methadone. But you don't want them to stay on methadone. You want to bring them over to quinoa and kale and healthy and lactose-free. And so where we are now is gut health, but real gut health. If anyone's got any gut issues out there, please go to nobloat.com, because there's so many myths and BS on the internet. David Beckham's electrolyte drink. You can get it for £3 in any store. It's like all of this stuff, and I think David and Victoria are fantastic, but it's just know the product you're buying and understand what's behind it. So No Bloat was a 14-year study with manometries, endoscopies, colonoscopies to work out 500 vegetables. Why did I go when I got Lyme's disease and it wiped out my microbiome from 6-pack to 6 months when I had cauliflower or garlic or onion? So I was analyzing this, and it's called FODMAP stacking, slow peristaltic movement. So No Bloat was created and won the best food in the Gulf Food Show this year, because I've always been there speaking and doing demos or teaching Michelin chefs to cook some healthy food, because sugar and shit you can make taste good all the time. So No Bloat is the future and is going to heal a lot of people. And what we've done is we've got 2,000 plant-based beds in the Montefiore hospitals, and a lot of the aftercare patients are having it with cancer that they're trying to overcome because it's easy to digest. It's not creating that layers. Because if you think, just to summarize in life, stress is the number one factor of every illness that we get. It literally is. But it's how you handle that stress. So if you just get stress, you can live and your body will handle it. If you then layer it with crap food, too much alcohol, smoking, that stacking of those things are going to make you really, really sick. So why not make the food the thing that heals you? And then you can go and have a glass of wine, which weirdly is a low FODMAP for the women that like their wine, thank God. And literally, it's about balance. It's not about being extreme. But the things I would say for all women especially, because it's proven when I work with Professor Colin Campbell, the China study, is stay away from dairy. Even if you argue about meat and fish, dairy is the number one cause of cancer that you could progressively get in the future for prostate and breast cancer. So please, whatever, it's easy, get off dairy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just one last question. What advice would you give yourself if you could go back in time before, as a young girl, and how could those advice apply to young women entrepreneurs in the room here?
I think learn from your lessons and don't keep repeating them. Be true to yourself and don't keep blaming everyone else for the mistakes that keep happening in your life. And be kind to yourself and choose the right people around you and get rid of any ego. But also get rid of the vultures and the leeches and the lazy little shits, because there's lots of them out there. And when you run a business, trying to find a team that care about your business as much as you do is the hardest thing possible. And don't put a round peg in a square hole. I had someone work for me for 20 years, brilliant production manager, gave them a promotion, crap at the area that we put them in. So we put them back where they were. So understand your people, look after them, but make sure you don't get taken advantage of, because that can happen a lot if you're too nice. I mean, when you worked with teams like I have for 20, 30 years, they're like family, but they do take advantage. So be tough and remember it's a business, but it doesn't mean you can't care about your staff.
Thank you.